Michelle, and today I'm going to show you how to make this super fun netted bracelet. We call it the Hukilau.
First, let's start with the wax linen. You can use 2 or 3 ply, and we chose 3 ply for this project because it's stronger and more durable. We've pre-cut our wax linen into 1 yard lengths, and now we will half hitch them onto each loop of this bar. If you'd like a bracelet that's more narrow, you can use a bar with less loops. To make a half hitch, take both ends of your thread and bring it up through the loop and pull the 2 threads down into the loop of thread that you've made. A half hitch knot is also known as a luggage tag or a lark's head knot or even a sales tag knot. Again, it's made by taking your 2 thread ends, bringing it up through the bar loop, and bringing the 2 thread ends down through the loop that you've made with your thread. Once you have all 5 of your wax linen threads attached, you can take another piece of thread or cording and attach it to your bar clasp so that you have something to pinch on with your clipboard. Now we'll take our 10 thread ends and pop them into the slots of the kumihimo disc that we have pinched to the bottom of our clipboard with that office binder clip. We're doing this because 10 strands are difficult to hold down tightly, so if you have a kumihimo disc lying around, it's a really wonderful way of holding those thread ends in place. Now that we've finished our first row of knots, the first 5 knots that we did, we're going to start the second row. The second row will start by taking the second and third strands and tying them together. The knot we're using is called an overhand knot, so hold both of your threads together, form a loop, and pull the 2 strings down through that loop. Once you have it in place, you'll separate the 2 strands and pull them to tighten that knot. Now you'll take the 2 strands and place it back into the slots of the kumihimo disc in the order that you removed them. So strand 2 is on the left and strand 3 will be on the right. Now you'll take strands 4 and 5 and make an overhand knot again. We will be showing you later in this video how to use a knotting tweezer to make these knots a bit easier, so keep watching. Remember to tighten by pulling the threads away from each other after each knot and placing them back into the kumihimo disc slots where they came from. Now we're going to overhand knot strands 6 and 7 together. This is a row with only 4 knots, so please note that the first and the 10th strand of wax linen are not being used in this row. Again, remember to pull the strings apart to tighten these knots. We've just completed the row of 4 knots, and there's nothing on the first and last strands. So now we're going to start the next row of 5 knots and add the beads. Before we get to add the beads, I just want to remind you that this is a very random pattern. There is no specific way that we chose the beads and where we put them. So when it says that we put the bead on either strand 1 or 2, we really mean it could either be on strand 1 or 2. It's up to you. So as you do your layout, please pay attention to where you want gaps to occur or where you want it to look full. Once you have your bead in place, we'll make an overhand knot underneath that bead and tighten those threads to make that knot stay in place. We are finishing up a row with 5 knots, so the next row we're about to do will have 4 knots. Because this row has 4 knots, we're going to be skipping strand 1 and starting with strands 2 and 3. So you can either tie strand 2 and 3 together now or put a bead on and then tie an overhand knot. Here's a quick tip. If your beads are small, you can put more than one on. Just like that. Keep going by making your knots and adding your beads where you want. And remember to have fun. And I'll see you towards the end. Just a quick reminder that we're finishing up a row with 4 knots and we're going to be starting a row with 5 knots. Please take a look here at the alternating rows between 4 and 5 knots. So that has 5, this one has 4, so the next row will have 5 knots, which means we start with strands 1 and 2. Knotting tweezers could possibly be your new best friend. We love them. When you use a knotting tweezer, it'll help guide the knot to where you want it to land. So you'll start the knot as usual, and this time you'll reach through the knot with your knotting tweezer and pinch where you want the knot to land. When you pull the threads down, it will tighten right next to the tweezer. You can drag down to tighten the knot even more, and there you have it. Let's do that again. So make your overhand knot as usual. Take your knotting tweezers, reach through the loop you made, pinch where you want the knot to land, pull the threads down to tighten, pinch against the knot with your tweezers, and you can pull the threads apart to really get that knot tight. You want to end on a row with 5 knots. And we know that the bracelet's going to get longer by the time you add those end bars and a clasp. So we wanted the knotted length to be only 6 inches. So please be aware of your project getting longer as you go and stop as soon as you reach your desired length. We're ending on a row that ends with 5 overhand knots because we have 5 loops on our end bar that we're going to attach it to right now. So take your first string from the kumihimo disc and bring it up through the first bar loop and pull that thread all the way through. Now take your second strand of wax linen, number 2, and square knot number 1 and number 2 together to hold that end bar in place. The second knot that we do here is a surgeon's knot. So instead of going through that loop once, we go through twice. That makes a more secure knot. If you prefer, you can do a square knot or a surgeon's knot. Either way, we will be putting beads on the ends of these threads later, so that will hold it in place. So take your third wax linen string and bring it up through the loop. Square knot it with the 4th string. Now the second knot can be a surgeon's knot, so go through the loop twice and pull down to tighten. Do this with the rest of the threads, and note that you will be pulling the odd numbered threads up through the bar each time. To finish this, we're going to tie a bead onto each of the strings and put an overhand knot to secure them. This way we don't have any unfinished threads and we don't have to worry about any of the threads coming undone. So if you happen to have a bead where the hole is large, you can put 2 overhand knots. So do check that the bead doesn't come off of the knot. After you finish tying on all your beads, you can use your cutters or scissors to trim away all of the long pieces. And after that, we'll show you how to put on your clasp. Using your 2 flat edge tools, we're using a chain nose plier and a flat nose plier. You're going to open a jump ring, hook it into the end bar, add your clasp, we're using a magnet clasp here, and then you can close your jump ring. If you want something that's more easily resizable, consider using a hook clasp with an extender chain. That way, if it's a gift, it'll be sure to fit whoever you make it for. So you want to open the jump ring, attach it on the other side, and you are done. Hope you enjoyed it.
So here it is, the bracelet that I just finished. My fun knitted Hukilau bracelet.